Here today in the Tier 10 Soviet Battleship, the Kremlin, Sovetsky Soyuz's big sister, and we are on the map Warrior's Path, and the mode is Domination. So we're on patch 0.8.7, and I'm going to start just by moving forward. Note there's no aircraft carrier in this match. Matchmaking wise, it does look like a good mix of 10s and 9s. 3 unlucky 8s tossed in there. In terms of ships of note, note that there is an Azuma in this game. So the Azuma is the Japanese Tier 9 supercruiser with 310mm rifles. And this is of note because the Soviet battleships have a normally very HE-resistant heavy armor scheme, which of course the Kremlin shares as the crown Tier 10 of the line. However, 310mm guns do have just about 50mm of HE overmatch. By stock, I believe it's 51, which normally would pen most ships, including the Stalingrad, an exceptionally heavily armored Soviet supercruiser. However, your 60mm midsection resists even that HE. So even the supercruisers need to take IFHE in order to be able to penetrate the middle deck of the Soviet battleships, which is kind of stupid, to be honest. Anyhow, Kreml. She looks like an enlarged Sovetsky Soyuz, and she is essentially an enlarged Sovetsky Soyuz, including her hit point pool, 108,000 hit points. Oh, they're Harugumo. She takes full AP pens. She's inside 15 kilometers, my optimum range. I'm going to shoot her. She has turned out, 2 overpens, lucky duck. But I still have one more rifle. Now as I take this pot shot on this turning Harugumo, we were talking about the incredible durability of the Kreml. So this is made 1 by her very large hit point pool. 108 puts her at the highest in the game, superseding even the Grosse Kurfürst, which held the title before her. Gonna do the usual Soviet bow tanking business. As we pull into this corner, the Harugumo is pretty far from us, well outside a 12-kilometer range of his Shimakaze torpedoes, which he's likely loading. Baltimore turning in front of us inside our optimum Soviet range, so we fire our front rifles. Nice tight dispersion cluster. Unfortunately, a bit high, 4 over penetrations. So, an enlarged Sovetsky Soyuz. What's different about the Kreml other than a bigger hit point pool? Well, for starters, you lost access to the float plane fighter, a bit of a negative. It means you lose out on some bonus AA. But more importantly than the bonus AA is the loss in spotting utility. If you want to peek over an island, well, too bad, you can't do that. Now the Harugumo's shelling me with his HE, which is not that effective. I'll chunk him back for 4,000. It's going to hurt you a lot more than it hurts me. Des Moines is shelling me from 14 kilometers full broadside, which I don't appreciate. It's also a Vladivostok that's creeping onto my side, but I just adjust my rudder. He continues to reverse, so I will continue to shoot him. I'm going to adjust my nose so that I don't give full angle to the Vladivostok. Nice clean citadel hit on that full broadside Des Moines. Don't do that in your Des Moines, please. It's not exactly optimal play. So yeah, no float plane fighter. It sucks. You lose a lot of spotting utility in terms of peeking over islands. This guy's pretty much broadside, right? No, he's angling away now. Harugumo ducks behind an island. This guy's going to have to pull broadside to get behind that island. So in anticipation, I'm going to fire. Unfortunately, the mountain eats most of my shells, but still 5k. Now, outside of the missing floatplane fighter, the AA is not lost that much because the Kremlin does actually have a modernized AA suite, as this Rugmo lights me up. You'll note he's not actually doing that much in the ways of raw penetration damage. Oh, I can't shoot him over that. That sucks. It's a bit of a tragedy. Can't give the Montana too much angle, but as I push forward, I'm going to become occluded anyway, so I'll just tank the one fire. Waiting for the Kremlin, or the Vladivostok to come out. Because the Montana's proceeded so far forward, I can angle in towards the Vladivostok now, without too much trouble. So, Soviet Battleship has a lot of broadside armor, but broadside armor isn't going to save you from another Soviet battleship with her super high penetration guns. Now, in addition to heavy belt armor, there's also a forward belt strip here, kind of similar to the Moskva in her 50mm strip plates. Of course, our cheek plate, shall we say, is 220mm, so it's quite a bit thicker. But you can use it to do the same kind of things where you bait shells into your nose if you're getting shot at by a Yamato, for example, and bounce them off that 220mm strip. It's quite stupid. Now note that I still share the Sovetsky Soyuz's rather short range, 20.7 kilometers. This is pretty short for a high-tier battleship. This is of course, this is less detrimental because of the Soviet dispersion pattern, which means that above ranges of 15 kilometers, my dispersion's below average anyway. But it's something to note. At range, the ship does struggle to deal damage, just like the Sovetsky Soyuz, so you really want to get yourself in there if you can. Ideally, you'd have enemies approach you, but that doesn't always happen in World of Warships. Now, outside of the consumable setup, the Kremlin also has one key distinction in her main battery, which I've been using this whole time. However, there hasn't been any relevant case for me to bring up the difference yet, because everyone I've been shooting at has either no armor as a destroyer or battleship armor as a battleship, where gun caliber does not matter nearly as much as I open up on this Rugmo at short range. 4 overpens, 6k. Please finish him. Oh, he didn't die. Well, that's a right shame. My turret traverse is pretty good, as with most Russian high-tier battleships, keeping up with my full turn quite easily as the Donskoy angles away. Pity. Need to get my rear gun ready. Going to beach myself against the Rugmo because, well, I don't want to die. If he reload boosted, this will give him the most awkward angle to shoot from. Gonna have to be going with my front guns onto him. Okay, I did not get my front guns off because I beached myself at a weird angle. That's fine. I beached myself in this way in order to dodge any potential torpedoes that he pre-launched through the channel. Of course, if there's another destroyer behind me and they torped at my butt, well, that's going to be a different problem entirely. Donskoy continuing to harass me as this cyclone sets in. Chapayev, you really would not do well to push that corner, because you're going to die from just 2 overpens as your nose pokes past. Okay. Maybe trying to torp me, not sure. Maybe a little desperate. Either way, I'm not going to let him launch his 4-kilometer suicide torps. Now the cyclone set in, you can see the pattern of the enemy ships. I'm going to use this time to reposition. Probably going to have to loop out this way. Something enters into the cap. Maybe a cruiser, maybe the Fletcher. Hard to say, going to pop my last heal here. Just because in case I do have to fight a Fletcher, I want as much health as possible. Now I am a very large battleship, so I suffer from typical large battleship problems, that is poor maneuverability, large size, poor acceleration, all that jazz. Huge turning circle. So the expert analysis of my Des Moines, poking out in hard detection, tells me that it's a Georgia. Georgia is on Iowa hull with 457mm guns, similar to mine, but much lower velocity. Montana dispatches my Des Moines from the other side, which is not great. Need my teammates to catch up. I'm not going to push this corner because there's a JB and a Georgia there. Don't want to take intense secondary fire. And versus a bow-in Jean Bar with my 357s, which do not overmatch 32mm of plate armor, by the way, I'm going to go for the guns. Now he might try to ram me in this situation. He's higher health, so it's not horrible. But I really don't want to ram. Montana, not going enough broadside. Ooh, okay. Looks like I'm not angled enough against the American AP there. Taking a look at my options before I pull the trigger. Note his guns are facing sideways to me, so I'm hitting the sides of the guns to disable them. Disabled the frontal turret. Looks like he damaged control partied. Oh no, he let it stay disabled. He's definitely going for a ram. I'm going to need help. Gonna go for his other remaining turret. Aim right at the front glasses. That penetration damage is just from the shells overmatching and getting into the superstructure. George is going for my flank, which he may well get. My guns are not ready, so if he blasts me here, well, he blasts me. Ow. And yep, that's me done. Let's see if my teammates can mop this up. So, lost track of my opponents there. Should have been aware that they were all there, and should have tracked the most dangerous flanker, the Georgia, which does operate very well on the flanks of ships. Looks like he did get dispatched by the Benham, though, in retribution. My Jean Bar is pushing into A. Note that it's not ticking, which means the Fletcher is with him somewhere. And he found the Fletcher at very close range. So we'll see who wins, the mighty Fletcher or the big brain Jean Bar. Oh, looks like big brain Jean Bar did manage to dodge enough of the torpedoes to not die in one alpha strike, and well, Fletcher doesn't have any special consumables then. So some French HE dispatches that, so we take A. Fantastic. On the other side of the map, the Jean Bar that I opened up on has managed to be finished off by my teammates, and hopefully they can clean this up. Clean up what should have been an easy victory anyway. My Bismarck continuing to be very useful over here. Spicy boy player here. Now the Montana has 406mm guns. They don't overmatch 30mm of armor, unlike my 457s, but there's no 30mm armor on the Bismarck. It's all 32mm minimum outside of the superstructure. So he should just go in there. He has the German turtleback. Sure, he's a tier 8, and he's a tier 10, but it's up close and personal German battleship with essentially no citadel up close versus an American battleship with a citadel. So that scrap is actually one you should be taking. This guy, however, is playing it very cautiously, perhaps unaware that Germans are supposed to be played somewhat aggressively if you can get these kind of close quarters engagements. These are the engagements you can only dream of because usually you get burned down by HE fire and long-range AP, slamming into your large superstructure before then. JB engaging the Montana with HE because he doesn't overmatch, fair enough. As he closes though, he should switch to AP because there is going to be an opportunity for a pass-by. I don't think he's going to switch though because of, well, I kind of doubt his player skill. Don't ram. Well, I mean, ramming doesn't matter here. I say don't ram just on principle because it's not necessary. He should be able to take that trade at that range without utilizing the ram. But that is what he chooses to do. Hopefully my allies dispatch the Azuma soon enough, and we'll clean up this game. Pretty tame game overall, didn't do all that much. And didn't tank, okay, well, I was gonna say we didn't tank all that much, but apparently we did. We did burn through every heal, I suppose, while on the way in. So not a bad game, definitely showing off the Kremlin's absurd durability. Gunpowder-wise, didn't get too many opportunities to show it off. We did show off the vulnerability of the Russian sides. If people get close to you onto your flank, especially enemy battleships, they will delete you. So it's something you need to be aware of. Even though you are a close quarters expert, per se. If you get up close and personal with someone who doesn't have a citadel, such as a Bismarck, he can still beat you out, just because you can't kill him in time. Sure, you'll blast him for 40,000 damage, but he has the chance to actually one-shot you, in spite of your 108,000 health. So there's that to be aware of. Teammates are cleaning up the game now. Kill the Azuma, please, and there you have it. So since we didn't get to talk about the Kremlin that much in this game, I'll have to show the rest of you in port. But going over the game, 132,000 damage with 51 shell hits, 26 overpens and 15 pens, of which 4 were citadels. So 11 raw penetrations, 26 overpens, and 4 citadel pens. 1 in-cap, that was a JB gun we were going for. So against the JB has like nice flat gun turrets, so that you want to disable gun turrets if you don't have overmatch, just like the Kremlin. 3 kills, 1 fire from secondaries, 4 defended ribbons, 3 secondary hits. Kremlin secondaries suck, please don't rely on them. Team score wise, 1800, sorry. Nothing to write home about. That Jean Bart that I was kind of flaming for shooting only HE did have a pretty decent game nevertheless. He did manage to essentially one-shot a Fletcher after surviving the torpedo strike, so not too surprising. Detailed report wise, of course I only shot AP. You very rarely will get the opportunity to use HE except against destroyers, and maybe a Bao and Yamato in certain situations, that kind of deal. And versus the one DD I did shoot at, the Harugumo, because she takes full AP pens, you want to shoot AP at her anyway. Most of my damage, of course, came from that Vladivostok, which unfortunately decided to give us broadside. But yeah, pretty plain Jane game, not too bad. If I go back into port, you'll note the 457s. So the 457s, if I just pop this open, are an important gun caliber compared to the 406s of the Sovetsky Soyuz. Now they look the same, but 457s are special because they overmatch, as I mentioned. They overmatch 30mm of armor, and 30mm of armor is found on the external sides of pretty much every high-tier cruiser. So if I pull up this Yoshino, for example, and go to the armor layout, so it has 25mm fore-end plating. This is pretty common to a lot of high-tier cruisers. They'll have 25mm extremity plating. The Hindenburg and Des Moines will have 27, but that gets overmatched by essentially every high-tier Tier 10 battleship anyway, except for the Burgoyne anyhow. But in the middle section, they'll have this 30mm strip. So usually it'll be 30mm deck and 30mm upper belts, or upper casemate, as you might call it. And because of that, if they angle against 406mm shells, such as those found on the Sovetsky Soyuz, they can actually bounce. So any shells that strike this section well angled properly will get bounced by this high tier cruiser. However, 457s overmatch 30mm of armor, so the Kremlin shooting an angled Yoshino like that will not bounce. These 457s will punch right through. And that's really the major distinction of the Kremlin versus the Soyuz. She has big 457s, so she cares a lot less about angling, and as a result, it's just much simpler to use overall. And so there you have it. A nice, simple Kremlin game. Not super impressive, but not super unimpressive either. Definitely an extremely powerful battleship, as you saw, very, very tanky, tanked over 3 million potential damage just by accident over there, more or less. So, definitely a beast to watch out for. Cheers.